Hello and welcome to the Super Bowl breakdown. Matt Brown, Nuwwarah. It is finally here, the last game of the season. I cannot believe football will be no longer after Monday, but Mo, we had a fun season here, a good season. I think we put out some good information. I think we gave some winning bets here, and hopefully we can close out the season strong here with the Super Bowl as we take a look right now. 1.5 out there in the market. If you go to the big two, DraftKings and FanDuel, 1.5 on them, 1.5 at MGM. It's at 1 at Caesars. It is at 1 at Superbook here in Vegas. It's at 1 at ESPN Bet, 1 at South Point here in Vegas. It's 1 at Circa. So about 5 different locations of Circa out there. So some books at 1, some at 1.5. Total 48.5 at most places, 49 at Caesars, and a flat 48 at Fanatics, which, Mo, interestingly enough, Fanatics the only book to hit 48 multiple times here over the last 48 hours. So somebody at Fanatics keeps betting the under. I don't know who it is, but somebody keeps peppering their account over at Fanatics to get that thing down to 48. But again, just something to note, if you are in a Fanatics market, you like the over, there is a flat 48 out there. And of course, there are 49s as well. Look, guys, this is a treat to have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Mo has as much knowledge of this team as anybody in the industry, so knows the ins and outs here, be able to kind of break down what he thinks maybe some strengths and weaknesses are for this team as we enter this game. Down in a dome, so no weather concerns, nothing like that. Both teams heading indoors on the fast track there in New Orleans, Mo, and we're sitting point and a half.
Yeah, someone likes the Eagles, right? I mean...
Yeah.
There was some initial Chiefs push, I think, when the line dropped, which, try to hide your surprise, the Chiefs had just pretty much dominated the Bills. And I think everyone was super high on the Bills.
Yeah.
A lot of the market was super high on the Bills going into that game with a lot of late Bills money coming in. So then once the Chiefs reopened after maybe the most impressive game they've played this season, they got hit up to 2.5 even, some places. And then it seems like people that liked the Eagles were waiting to see if it would get back up to 2.5. Once that didn't happen, it's getting late in the week. Whatever. I think they just are like, all right, this is as good as the number is going to get, so I'm taking Philly.
Yeah, it is. I'll go ahead and just off the top here, we'll give you the full breakdown. I have a ton of props to talk as well, but did end up taking the Eagles. I did find one of those 2.5s that was up for all of 12 minutes here in Las Vegas. I think it was the only book in Vegas that hit 2.5 over the course of kind of that opening push there for the number. And for me, it all comes down to this rush defense for Kansas City versus this rush offense for Philadelphia. And I just continue to lean towards the fact that this offensive line is going to win. They're going to come in fully healthy. You have Saquon Barkley, who led the NFL in yards before contact. You have a Chiefs defense that over the second half of the season actually fell to 17th and 18th in respectively in a couple of different categories against the run. Not terrible, but again, bottom half of the NFL, and in comes the number 1 team in the NFL in running the ball. And further from there, you look in the playoffs, the 2 running backs that they faced with a pulse. Josh Jacobs went for 4.5 a carry. You get 5.8 per carry from Cook against this team as well. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a pretty decent time here in this one. If I'm catching points in a game that I actually think is going to be low scoring. So the only thing I haven't done is put in a bet on the total yet. And maybe you can give me your thoughts here as whether you think this actually will get the casual better push up, or if you think we're kind of stuck in the mud where we are right now. But I have a pretty decent lean towards the under, but everything in sports betting has always taught me to wait to play the under in the Super Bowl until the very last second. So I didn't bet it, but as we said, we've actually seen these 49s turn to 48.5s and 48s.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because when the total opened at 48.5, my initial feeling was we needed to slam the over, because I was just like, okay, these two teams in a dome. I just watched both of these offenses dominate on Conference Championship Sunday. Why is the total 48 in a dome? And then it immediately got smashed up to like 50.5 maybe 50. I don't know, but it got hit hard. So I was not alone in that feeling. But I'm with you. The more I think about this matchup, the more I think we're going to see not a lot of explosive plays on either side. So I do have a lean to the under because of that. I think, especially in the second half, man, these are among the best two teams in the NFL at choking the life out of the clock when they have the lead. We know how the Eagles do it. They pound the rock. They use all 4 downs, which drains the clock even more. And we know what the Chiefs do as well, which is get in third and manageable and let Patrick Mahomes cook. And it works. And it's working for multiple years in a row now. This has not been an explosive passing attack since Tyreek Hill left the building. So it has not mattered, obviously. So I think, both of these teams, I think, are going to – same thing I said about that Buffalo game, which there ended up being quite a bit of scoring. But I said in that game that the thing I expected the most was not a lot of punts, and that's what happened. And I kind of feel the same about this game, where both teams, I think, will be willing to use 4th down. I mean, dude, Andy Reid, 4th and 1 on his own 35. Like, that's just not something I've seen much of from him. But I think he knows when it's time to turn up the aggression knob, and he did it. And we know the Eagles are not going to shy away from it either.
Yeah, I kind of paint the game script of something like, we know what Fangio does. He plays that too high soft box. He likes, I mean, he's talked at length about this. His defensive philosophy is that it's easier to run downhill than it is to run backwards. And he likes to keep everything in front and have his guys come in and then be able to collapse on everything. And like in years past, that drove Mahomes crazy. He actually would end up having, he didn't have a ton of success against it. And then Mahomes grew as a quarterback into what I already consider to probably be the GOAT even now, even though without having to play another 5 or 6 years or whatever. But he just adjusted his game and has become perfect at taking advantage of that. But the reason, again, towards this under, Mo, is it is a methodical drive to get it done. Like we have seen how many times just in the last 2 months of the season did we see 11, 12, 13 play drives from this Chiefs team to get down there and score points? Mahomes is okay with it. He's sitting back. He doesn't care anymore about having to put up 50 on the scoreboard. That's not one of their things anymore. And what was it? I think it was until a couple of weeks ago, they had not even scored more than 30 points in a game, right? And still ends up with the best record in the NFL. And so I sit here and I think they'll have success moving the ball. It's just going to take a long time. And then if the Eagles have success moving the ball, like I think, it's going to take a long time too, because they're going to be running the ball. And I don't think it's going to be the explosive type of runs from Saquon Barkley against this defense. I think it's just going to be, again, just the grind. I think it's going to be grinding back and forth and whatever. And the 2 kickers, if you guys watched our 10 best bets video, Mo brought up a great thing about both of these kickers both being shaky. So I think these drives go even further, because instead of opting for a 48-yarder, you go for it on 4th and 2 or 3 or something, and it extends the drives even further. So I think I'm talking myself into an under bet, but at this point, now that I've already missed the big numbers, I guess I'm just going to wait and see if the, casual bettors love points and favorites. And so, we'll see if that ends up happening.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off that a little bit, a couple more things to keep in mind. The Chiefs tackle extremely well. So they are very good at preventing big plays. They were, I think, among the best at preventing big passing plays and rushing plays this year. And when you see their PFF grade, tackling is number 1 in the NFL. That makes sense. Yep. So they will occasionally give up big plays due to blitzing, but they'll also create big plays of their own, which will set back offensive drives. And then, Patrick Mahomes, 3rd lowest ADOT in the NFL this year. I think we've gone over that ad nauseum on this show. We know what Fangio wants to do, like you said, not only with the passing game for the Chiefs, but Kareem Hunt is like the perfect running back to attack this defense, because say the Chiefs had Saquon Barkley, right, and they were facing light boxes. Well, then you have to watch out for some 70-yard touchdown runs when he breaks into the open field. Well, Kareem Hunt won't do that, but what he will do is get 5 yards at a time. Yeah. He is very good at that. The Chiefs had a pretty high success rate rushing offense this year, but pretty poor in explosive plays. I think they were 31st or 32nd. So when you see Kareem Hunt try to run in the open field, it becomes very obvious why very quickly. He is probably the slowest running back in the NFL, but he still knows how to find the hole and power through it. So, I think both of these rushing attacks will play into higher success rate and not ripping off huge plays. As weird as that sounds about Saquon Barkley, but the Chiefs have been good about keeping a lid on that all year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so while we're on the rush game here, natural for me to kind of go into some of the rushing props that I do have in the account. I have over 10.5 rush attempts for Kareem Hunt. It has now moved to 11.5 for him. I still think it's playable at 11.5. I also played the alt at 14 plus for Kareem Hunt. That's almost like a mini hedge against my position with the Eagles, because I think that, obviously if the Chiefs are winning or up in this game, then Hunt might be trying to ice the clock in the fourth quarter as it is anyway. But I'm with you. Like, I think he has some success. I mean, like it's going to be 4 down linemen. That's about it every single time here from Fangio. And like you said, like Kareem Hunt is very good at averaging 4.7 yards a carry in a game. And like, that's great. Like 4.7 yards, you would take that all day, every day of the week. And so I think Andy Reid is going to take advantage of that. And I think Kareem Hunt definitely gets some carries in this game. He has been out touching Isaiah Pacheco since Pacheco came back from injury. Pacheco hasn't looked the same since he came back from injury. So I like Kareem Hunt here at over 11.5 rushes. I took the over 43.5 rush yards as well as a bit of a correlated play here with him. And then if I like Kareem Hunt a ton, I got to dislike Pacheco, and they opened Pacheco's longest rush at 9.5 yards. He only had 3 10-yard rushes all year anyway. And so if I think he's only going to get a handful of carries in the game, I have to play the under. So under 9.5 longest rush, I should say, for Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, I mean, Hunt is the clear preferred short yardage back as well. And in the passing game, they frequently bring Samaje Perine in for, especially I've noticed, 3rd and longer. I don't anticipate Pacheco being on the field. So I don't even know how many snaps he's going to play. He's been like around 30%, I think, the last couple of games. I agree with you completely that something doesn't look right to me. I think it's maybe normal. We've seen players with this injury. Mark Andrews would be a recent example, and Tony Pollard, players with like fractures in their lower leg, have came back and just not looked themselves for a good half year.
Yeah.
And I think that could be what we're seeing. And I don't really anticipate Pacheco looking like his normal self until next season. So I think it's fairly obvious. And then you get into a big spot like this, you just can't really afford to waste those carries on a guy who's not himself. So, no shade against Pacheco. He has done some very good work for the Chiefs the last couple of years, but I don't anticipate a very big role for him in this game.
Where do we sit? So we're just talking the Chiefs side of things. I mean, obviously we know Saquon is going to get, 95% of the carries in this game. His rushing prop, a market low of 109.5, a market high of 113.5, with an attempts set at 21.5 in this one. What do you kind of see his role being and the success of him having against this Chiefs D?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised the total rushes is that low. It seemed a little bit low to me.
Me too, because I played over at 22.5. So I mean, I got the worst of the number. I was like,
we were looking at this number last week at 24.5, I think, or 23.5. So I don't know why it's down. I get that they're like slight underdogs now instead of being favorites, but I don't think the Eagles are going to change what they want to do no matter what happens. I mean, especially when you just look at the way some of these games have played out against the Chiefs. I mean, teams that go away from their bread and butter early, like the Ravens and last year's AFC champion, it just has not gone well for them.
Has not worked out for basically anybody. It's literally like almost anybody.
I think the worst thing they can do, and I think the Eagles staff knows this, is to panic and just start letting Jalen Hurts drop back. And I would, at that point, you just click on any alt KC number you can find, because I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. I never will be. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. He's fine. I don't think he's like bad, but man, if he's in must-pass situations, I think you are in big trouble, especially against Spagnuolo's blitz packages. And I think the Eagles are smart enough to know that, and they're just going to stick to their guns.
Yeah, for me, the rushing total is so high for Barkley that I'd almost just rather play alts, and it's like he goes crazy, or like busts like one massive run like we've seen the last 3 games from him or something. So like I'd almost prefer to play over 130 at plus 170 than play like an over 110 and a half, at minus one. The juice now is all out to minus 116 or something like that. I'd rather get 170 at 130 plus than the 111 yards, because it seems to me like it's either going to work or it's not, and they're just going to keep doing it or have to get away from it. And so I would almost rather play alts on Barkley than just that. I mean, 110 is a lot of yards, so it's either like shit's working or it's not, Yeah,
I think I'm with you. I would say I don't hate playing the alt unders either for the same reason.
Right, exactly.
The Chiefs have an established history in playoff games of outperforming their regular season rushing defense metrics. As a Chiefs fan, I have seen this time and again over the years. Every year there seems to be at least one playoff matchup where everybody thinks, look at this stat, look at that stat, and look at that third stat. This team is going to run over the Chiefs, and it never happens. I always look at the box score at the end of the game, and the other running back superstar ran for 78 yards on 18 carries. It's happened so many times. Bills last year, Ravens last year. I mean, Derrick Henry, the Chiefs have bottled up so many of these guys when it comes down to playoff time on teams that had worse defenses than this one. So I'm honestly not that worried about Barkley. I'm more worried about A.J. Brown, truth be told. So, yes, Barkley could rip off a 70-yard run, and I have repeatedly said these are likely predictive when it comes to the Eagles, but I don't love his chances in this matchup.
So I'm glad you brought up A.J. Brown. So let's go ahead and head to the receivers and the receiving side of all of this. A.J. Brown sitting at 69.5 as a market low, 71.5 as a market high from a receiving standpoint. Do you think that him getting there or not getting there is game script dependent, or do you think that he could be just a normal part of this offense, and whether things are going good or going bad, it could still lead to one or the other?
I think to some degree it is game script dependent, but I think maybe more matchup dependent than anything. I'm curious to see how the Chiefs elect to defend these receivers. Trent McDuffie played a lot in the slot in years past. Not so much this year. They are definitely keeping him outside. That is where he will find A.J. Brown. He has struggled at times against some of these bigger, stronger receivers, though. Cortland Sutton kind of ate his lunch in that matchup, and I kind of think he might be better off shadowing Devontae Smith, but they do tend to put Smith in the slot at times, and I'm not sure how that's going to shake out. Obviously, the Chiefs getting Jalen Watson back means they have 2 good outside corners, but I'm assuming they're going to want to give safety help to A.J. Brown's side. He did have that flub against the Rams, but even then it's just like he's getting open. He's beating these cornerbacks. Nobody is having much success staying with him. A lot of shorter stuff, too, that he's easily beating people on these slants. Those have been Trent McDuffie's strong suit over the years, though. I think he's really strong defending really both down the field and the shorter stuff. So I'm curious to see what the Chiefs try to do. I don't have a strong feeling of what they're going to do either way, but if it ends up being Jalen Watson plus more safety help, I think that's a little worse for A.J. Brown. And if he's isolated on McDuffie, he might have a little bit more success than people think.
Yeah, it's the deal where this is the number one, like outside of what happens with this whole Saquon thing with Spags, like what is the A.J. Brown game plan? Because Chiefs run man at the highest rate, one of the highest rates. I think it's like eighth, seventh, eighth highest rate in the NFL or whatever it is. A.J. Brown is the best receiver versus man there is in the NFL. And so, like, they have all the stats we do, Mo, right? I mean, they have all the stuff that we do. So they know this heading in. And so it's like, what do we get out of that? Because there's going to be a wrinkle. That's what that's why he's a genius. That's why he has run some of the best defenses we've ever seen with, like you said, maybe sometimes not even the greatest talent in the world because he schemes it so well. So I am very curious as to what the wrinkle will be for A.J. Brown because he is a man beater. You do like to run a ton of man. So he's going to do something here, and I'm curious as to what that is.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are a team that I don't think likes to get outside of their own strengths. Mm-hmm. I think when you've had the success the Chiefs have had, it's very easy to just convince yourself, I'm going to play my game and we're going to make the other team adjust. And for the most part, it works. I don't know if it will work against A.J. Brown. Like you said, he seems pretty much unguardable in man. So I am a little bit concerned about that matchup. And another one is Dallas Goedert. He has had a lot of success against the Chiefs in the last Super Bowl. He beat the Chiefs on high leverage downs repeatedly. He plays tight end, obviously, which is a position the Chiefs have struggled to defend all season. We've talked about that a few times, I think. They're just not as strong over the middle of the field. I think you saw that against the Texans a few games ago. Basically, every completion the Texans had in that game was over the middle of the field. So we could see some success for Dallas Goedert. I think pretty much every tout I've seen is on Dallas Goedert over for this game.
Go ahead and throw me in there as well. Now I will say this. I was on air on Sunday night, first time since I've been betting seriously, and it's been 25 years at this point. I mean, the props were up at the major sports, at the big sports books within minutes of the game being over. I mean, and so they opened Goddard down at 46.5 yards. I'm like, that seems too low. Bet the over there. Now we're sitting, low. I mean, we're sitting in the 50s now with Goddard. I still think he can have a very good game. I just want everyone to know when I say, I really love Goddard in this game, the number has shifted a decent amount. What hasn't shifted is the receptions, though, at 4.5. Mo, I know it seems so easy to keep saying, but really and truly, we do keep seeing tight ends have decent days against the Chiefs, repeatedly. We do keep seeing it. They were dead last in the NFL in yards per route run allowed to the tight end position this year, and so we see Goddard come off a monster game, last game for this Eagles squad. I don't think Jalen Hurts is very good either. So high. These are literally high percentage throws that he's throwing to Goddard. These are high completion percentage passes he's throwing to Goddard. I fell in the trap too, buddy. I'm on the Goddard overs, and I guess they can prove me wrong.
A lot of that, I think, is by design. When you look at, it's like the Chiefs have always, until this year, I think, allowed a lot of receptions to running backs and receiving yards to running backs. Well, the average catch by running backs and tight ends is not as valuable as the average catch by a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. This is very obvious. So the Chiefs would probably prefer to funnel the targets and the catches to Dallas Goedert and away from Devontae Smith.
Exactly.
And A.J. Brown. And I see no reason to not laud them for that because that's probably what they should do.
What about the other side of the ball? What about Kelsey?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say real quick is if these numbers have gotten a little bit out of control for you and you want a different angle on it, DraftKings has Dallas Goedert head-to-head against Travis Kelce plus 130. I think that's okay. Unfortunately, I was looking at that a few days ago, and it was plus 145, I think. Mm-hmm. So somebody has hammered that, which unfortunately I did not get on that early enough. So I touted that to somebody before I bet it, which was a large mistake on my part. But there is still plus 130. I think that's still maybe okay. It's definitely not as exciting as it was when it was up closer to plus 150. But yeah, I'm a little bit bearish on Kelsey. I just think with the way the numbers have adjusted up heavily on Kelsey is maybe getting a bit too much. I know that they're just baking in playoff Chiefs and playoff Kelsey, and I completely am a believer in playoff Chiefs. I don't know if I'm a believer in playoff Kelsey at this point. Last year, when we saw Travis Kelce come back, you saw a different looking player when he came out against the Bills and is just like toasting people one-on-one, scoring touchdowns. Okay, that's not what he's been doing in this year's playoffs. He had a big game against Houston in which he broke maybe the first 2 tackles I've seen him break all year. And, that was a product of poor Houston tackling. I don't think Kelce looks any faster or quicker than he did during the regular season, not the way he looked in last year's playoffs. So I think maybe these numbers are pumped up a tad too high. I am into the idea of some 12 personnel here for the Chiefs. I was looking up some numbers. I'm assuming the Chiefs staff knows this. Philly's defense has been quite a bit worse defending 12 personnel compared to 11. When you look at them versus 11 personnel, they're minus 0.11 EPA per play allowed. Verse 12, it's minus 0.03, which is obviously still good. But when you're looking at the best defense in the NFL, basically being scratch in that subset of plays is actually like not that good. So that is a way for the Chiefs, I think, to maybe have some success. And we know who the Chiefs' TE2 is. It is Noah Gray. I think we can get some really buy low numbers on Noah Gray, man. The last couple games, I should say, 3 targets total. They were all against Houston. He didn't get a single one against Buffalo, I believe. So his numbers are quite depressed. We're looking at 11.5, 12.5 across the market. The thing is, he's still playing close to 50% of the snaps. So I think the opportunities will be there. We've talked about what sort of throws Fangio wants to force. Well, throws to Noah Gray would probably be at the top of the list. They will be short throws. They will be over the middle. I mean, only the Chiefs running backs basically finished with a lower ADOT than Noah Gray out of players that had more than 30 targets. He was a big part of the offense in the regular season. I mean, he scored more touchdowns than Travis Kelce, so it's not like this would be totally crazy for Noah Gray to have a decent game. And then you're looking at a total of 11.5. I think you can try some alts if you want. Another option, which I think I'll have a taste of, there's as high as plus 550 to score a touchdown out there. I think I'm going to have a little bit of that.
Let's talk about quarterbacks doing things they're not paid to do. So instead of throw the ball, run the ball. So both of these quarterbacks rushing props are fairly interesting to me for a couple different reasons. I like both of their rushing attempts over and both of their rushing yardages under, which I think I'm going to play each individually and then also plug them into little same game parlays and have that algorithm go absolutely crazy with all of that. But a couple of different things here. With Jalen Hurts, specifically at FanDuel, it's at 8.5 on rush attempts. I mean, Mo, like we said, this is the Super Bowl. You're leaving it all on the line. We're going to get at minimum four tush pushes in this game. Maybe more than that. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 designed runs that when he gets blitzed to high heaven, which I imagine he will be in this game as well, every now and then it's going to create rushing lanes. If they don't get home, he's going to take off. I think Hurts gets to 9 carries in this game fairly easily. It wouldn't surprise me if he has a dozen carries in this game, but a lot of those carries, remember, are 1 yard carries. They're the tush pushes go for a yard or a yard and a half or whatever. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to run for 40 yards. He's not going to average 4 yards a carry, most likely, in that scenario. So I think that's something that's at least somewhat interesting for Hurts. And then also on the Mahomes side of things, if you like the Chiefs to win, by the way, you should never be betting Mahomes yardage because he likes to take dramatic knees. He is not the hike knee guy. He is the hike run back 3 yards knee guy. And then he does it again. And then he does it again to take the time off of the clock. And it's a backbreaker. So again, if you like the Chiefs to win, I would just go carries on Mahomes. I would not be going yardage on him because of what I just mentioned.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off what you just said actually, because when I was looking at some same game parlay options for an article on the lines, I found one similar track to what you were saying about Jalen Hurts that I think is live, huge long shot. Jalen Hurts 2+ TDs with under 38.5 rushing yards. Yeah. I plugged it in at multiple sites. it's somewhere around plus 2,000. I think MGM had the best price, but you should be able to get around plus 2,000 for that one. And I think it's live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just looking at the way he's playing football right now, we've seen multiple times in the playoffs, Jalen Hurts, instead of looking for contact, instead of looking to juke guys, just sliding. So his running style right now is not the sort of running style that he has been using for the majority of his career. I don't know if it's a conscious choice by him to compensate for injuries. I don't know if it's a strategic choice by the staff that wants him to do this, that is directing him to do this. But he has been consciously avoiding contact, and that is costing him some yards. So, yeah, I do think these are both live parlays that you can try that have quite large payouts.
One that I think is another bet that I think is fairly interesting. Every site out there will have game leaders to lead the game in XYZ category or something like that. I mean, going back to this Dallas Goedert train yet again, right? To lead the game in receptions. So he doesn't have to, yards doesn't have to be there, right? Like just in receptions, he can catch a whole bunch of 6-yard passes and whatever. He's 7-1 to lead the game, at least at DraftKings. I think you can probably find a little bit better at a couple of other places, but I don't think there's going to be anybody that's super heavily targeted in this game. Like, I don't think there's going to be one receiver that we're like, oh my God, the guy got 14 targets or whatever, something like that. Like, I don't think that's going to be the case really at all with anybody in this game. And so if I like the fact that the Chiefs are willing to give up just the short, easy, non-sexy passes over the middle, Goddard had 7 catches last game. Could he have 7 catches again this game? Could he have 7? Could he add one more? Could he have 8 catches in this game and it be non-consequential 47 yards while he's doing it? I think so. But, I think that at 7-1, the price for me, when I don't love anyone to get a whole bunch of receptions, I think is fairly interesting.
Yeah, I think that's live. The leader markets are a bit boring for this game for obvious reasons. With Saquon hogging so much of the equity, obviously. Another one that I think might be a decent look if you are looking for some more longer shots just for fun. Devontae Smith longest reception, I think, is around 6-1. Even you can get a bit better. That's one I was looking at. He got targeted deep more often than A.J. Brown, I believe, the last time these teams played in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs have been pretty much locked down against WR1s this year. But again, I don't know what their strategy is going to be as far as covering these guys. But Devontae Smith gets targeted deep frequently enough, and I'm bearish enough on the Chiefs beating these outside corners that I do think that there might be some value on Devontae.
Yeah, I think that he might have the best matchup in this whole game. He might have the best matchup in this whole game. I don't know if that comes to fruition because, like I said, Hurts still has to hit him with the ball, but I do think he has the best matchup in this entire game with everything. Guys, I know you don't want to get out of here without knowing what Mo thinks from a Gatorade color perspective. So, I mean, like, Mo, you certainly you've got a hot take on what color Gatorade, you know?
I looked back at this one. Looks like purple is the favorite for good reason. The Chiefs were purple each of the last 2 seasons. Maybe the value is on orange or lime because the Chiefs used that the first Super Bowl they won, and I believe the Eagles were lime last time they won the Super Bowl. So who knows if this is a different equipment manager. I haven't kept track of this stuff, so I couldn't tell you. But I would probably not play the favorite.
I'll put it this way. One of the markets is no Gatorade bath, and one of the markets is clear. You can scratch both of those off. Gatorade is paying so much money to be the official sports drink of the NFL. They plant the damn thing. Like because this is one of the things where people like y'all are like, it's not a tinfoil hat thing. Half of those coolers over there on the sideline are water. Like, not everybody drinks Gatorade. These dudes don't just magically happen to grab the Gatorade container every single time. Like, no, it is given to them. It is handed to them. It is a plant because Gatorade pays a lot of money to be the official sports drink of the NFL, and they don't want water poured on the damn. They want it to be a Gatorade bath. They want it to be synonymous with everything that they're doing. And so you can scratch no off of there and you can scratch clear off of there because, like, it is not going to be water. I assure you that it is going to be some form of Gatorade. So actually any price you're getting on any of the colors is actually a little bit better because this shouldn't be even on there for sure.
You mean the Coca-Cola ads on the buildings in Blade Runner are not just benign?
Yeah, I mean that's my rant, but I think it actually makes sense. I really do. Like I actually think it makes sense. Like they didn't pay all this money to like have water poured on the on the coach. Like that's just not it. They have somebody on the sideline waiting to hand them a Gatorade filled container, So anyway, there's my rant, my parting rant here on the podcast. Guys, we do appreciate you being with us all season long. Hopefully you've already subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, do so for sure because we're going to keep things going here. We'll have golf content. We'll have basketball content. We'll have all the stuff throughout the course of the year. Mo and I'll talk a little NFL draft as those markets start to populate as well. So we're not going anywhere. We certainly will be back next season as well. But appreciate all the support here. Over 50,000 of you had hit that subscribe button already, and it means a lot. So thanks for the support out there, and hopefully you learned something, made some good money here along the way with us as well. If you want to continue the discussion, TheLines.com, upper right-hand corner is the Discord. That is absolutely free as well. Go in there, chop it up, not only with Mo and company, but hey, other people, like-minded bettors like you, and maybe you'll find something that you want to stick in the account too. For Mo, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Super Bowl bets.